One of the first things I did was I played around with the colors. So what these colors are is the starting color and the ending color for different particles. So this one is red. I left that. Red was a good color. Oops. All right. Yellow. Okay, yellow was also one of the colors present in the original game. And then I said, well, all right, I don't really want to go have yellow as a starting color. So I made these last two, or an ending color. I made these last two cyan, which is, if you're familiar with the color codes, a 0, 1, 1 for a color code for RGB using a floating point is cyan. So it starts at red or yellow and it ends up being cyan at the end, which is pretty close to the color that we've used for the hallway edges. It's not exactly, but it's close enough. And then you get these other transitions here. So then I went down and I modified, and I'm not going to go through all this. What I would suggest people do is take a look at burn, and then take a look at some of the changes that I've made, and I'll point them out here. So let's see. One of the changes that I made was, try not to delete code while we're doing this. One thing I noticed was that when the player was moving, you see how there's no particles over the player? It seems like they start way back here. So it was even worse than that initially. The trail was like, the first part of the trail that was visible was way back. And what was caused by that, or what was causing that, was that the end time was too long. The end time controls how long does it take for the particle to fade into view or become visible. So I'm pretty sure. And it was basically half a second. So I made it a tenth of a second, and that improved things greatly. Now, initially I made it 0. And I think I crashed it. It's not supposed to be 0. It's got to be at least 1 frame. So otherwise things go wonky. Let's see. Another thing that I did was I changed the lifetime a little bit. This one did not have a lifetime parameter. As you might imagine, the lifetime will control how long the particle lives for. By default, it's probably like a third of a second. I don't know. There's probably a value. If we looked at the documentation, it would probably tell us what the default lifetime is. But the lifetime on the particles was too short, so I made it half a second so that they would hang around. So if you want to see this in action, we could undo this and rerun this. And as you can see, the trail is a little bit shorter. Not too bad, but I wanted it just a bit longer.
Yeah, it gives more of an impression that it's a bonfire coming off of you as opposed to like maybe just your tailpipes flaming.
But yes, what I wanted was, as soon as you start zigzagging, I wanted that trail to be zigzagging behind me, especially on short corners. So let's see what else. A big one was, if you look at this, it's got a physics parameter. Now the physics parameter is telling you how is this going to behave physically in the world. Is there going to be gravity? Is it going to be ejected in a particular position, etc.? So the angles controls the ejection of the particles. So what it's saying here is that the particles would be ejected between 80 degrees and 100 degrees relative to the object or the vent. And additionally, it's got a gravity thing here that says basically gravity is a little bit negative. In other words, it's going to float upwards because, as you remember, y in Corona is downward. Positive y is down, negative y is up. So what this is saying is that this is going to move in a negative direction very slowly. It's going to accelerate because it's under gravity. I did not want that. What I wanted instead was for the particles to be ejected randomly in any direction around the center, sort of like what I had before with my own particle system. So I put 0 to 359 as the angles, and then I did not want any gravity at all. Although I played around with some gravity, and actually having a little bit of negative gravity was kind of a cool effect. You would not think so, but it was it gave it an interesting effect. So this is what we have now. But if I made this a little bit subtle, but you can see, I don't know, maybe this, I'll try, it's probably hard to see it in the camera, but people can experiment with this, and you'll see that there's something a little bit different about the feel of the particle trail when the particles want to float upward. Let's undo that. And then the only other thing was I was not happy with that. That is what the initial ejection was, way too high. So what this is the particles are ejecting at some velocity, and this is not the effect that I was looking for at all. So I knew that from working with particle systems that this was velocity, but I went and looked in the document and said, okay, well, what's the velocity parameter? Oh, velocity. All right. So I put velocity in here. And another thing you can do is he's got a lot of presets in here. So if you're thinking of a parameter, like I wasn't sure if lifetime was all one word lowercase or had an underbar or what. So I just typed in life and searched and found the parameter and said, oh, okay, well, I'll copy that, paste it into my burn 2, and play with it. So back to velocity.
Go
ahead.
Just on that point there. So what I heard you say is basically there's already a preset. There's already a value assigned to these fields someplace, and if you don't assign them in your
preset,
in your preset, then they will be accounted for. It's just that you're not adjusting them, right? So if you want to if you think you need something, go look for it.
Parameters have defaults.
Okay.
Yeah, which makes sense because you want to. I think he chose middle of the road defaults for a standard 360-degree ejection vent that wasn't moving.
Okay. Okay. So if you're looking at a preset that's got like maybe 3 fields in it, just know that that's not all there is. You just need to go back up to a bigger example and see and find what you're looking for. And
you can always look at that reference document that I pointed out earlier on, and there are quite a number of different parameters there. He's got some really he's done a really wonderful job here in that you can create a very complexly behaving vent system and particle, which are 2 different parts of the whole system: the particle's behavior and the vent's behavior.
And
so
the
go
vent
back to this.
I'm sorry.
So I'm not.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. One other question. And the vent is.
So I'm sorry. So in a particle system, you basically got 2 components. You've got what is typically called the vent, and then you've got the particles. So the vent, its job is to produce particles and to do something with them, to make them move in a certain direction, under a certain velocity, etc., etc. It's sort of like the generator, if you will. It generates the particles. But the particles themselves can be specified to have certain attributes, like what color is it, what image does it use, if it uses an image at all, how does it behave under gravity, does it scale up, does it scale down, does the alpha change, does it have a physics body, can it collide with other things, etc., etc. And so with those 2 parts, you can create a series of very interesting effects with minimal programming, especially when you have a powerful system like this already pre-coded for you.